Hello, I'm IBX Toycat, and let me tell you about the brand new 1.17 snapshot, which added 13 brand new blocks to the game, but somehow that's not even the most exciting bit, because we finally have a playable version of the Deep Dark. That's right, the Deep Dark now exists in the 1.17 snapshots, and the exciting thing about this Deep Dark is it contains a brand new block. You know, this is what we assumed would be exclusively spawning here. It's a new block called Grimstone. This is where the 13 variants I just showed you came from. But the interesting thing about this biome is not just the fact that it spawns here, and the fact that later it's going to have that warden, that terrifying mob, and the fact that this block is all around here, but also the fact that there are serious rewards for coming here. Already we know there are massive rewards in the form of diamonds, gold, and all of the other ores, and allow me to explain all of this in today's video, because they have made a lot of changes, and are making a lot of changes, which they've announced today. So let's talk about all of those, starting with here in the Deep Dark. Wait, do you see that block over there? What's that? Oh, it's a Grimstone with some light glow lichens on it. Isn't that fun? Anyway, with that said, let's dive straight into the first thing here, because you might notice that some ores look different. That's right, they've changed all of the ores in this update, and so here is a fun little comparison of before and after. Why did they change all of the ores in 1.17? Because they wanted to make ores distinguishable. Wow, the bats touched the redstone, lit up. They wanted to make the ores distinguishable just by appearance alone. You shouldn't have to use color, because, you know, many people are colorblind, and so they've made that entirely possible. Now all of the ores look different. Here is the before, here is the after. I actually really like a lot of the new looks. I think redstone, for instance, looks much better in its new form, and I'm glad that off the 5 ores, diamond was able to retain its kind of diamond-like look. However, these brand new textures we saw in this update are not the only ones that are coming, because you might notice if you go mining in this Deep Dark, or if you just look around in creative like most people are doing, then something really interesting is that you will see that the ores look like they're stone covered, even when they're surrounded on all sides by this brand new Grimstone. So just to mine Grimstone with a netherite pickaxe to show you the speed of this. Again, it's not much slower than stone, but it's enough to really, slow you down by some percentage and remind you that you're in a brand new part of Minecraft, because, again, I want to talk about how it spawns later, but you'll notice how right now the block looks like it's made from stone, even when it spawns around this Grimstone. However, Grimstone will have different variants of all of the ores, so there will be a Grimstone diamond ore, a Grimstone redstone ore, a Grimstone iron, and, you know, basically the point is every ore, if it spawns down here, will have a Grimstone equivalent so that it blends in better with its surroundings. So yeah, there are brand new ore designs, and they will look, and there are also new brand new ore designs that will look different depending on where they are. So you can spawn ore just by appearance alone, not having to use the the color, which I think is nice. It's a useful change. I mean, I can't be the only one who's mistaken gold for iron at some point in a really dark cave. Now you don't need light. Now you don't need all that stuff to work out what is what. You just need to see what's going on. However, one thing we can be sure that isn't changing its texture is this andesite. Even though it's surrounded by Grimstone, it is a unique different block. Will it generate here in the future? We don't know for sure, but you can expect to find these alongside brand new blocks like were featured in the Minecon trailer, but that's a later on in time thing. For now, let's talk about Grimstone, because this is the really fascinating bit. This is the bit that really hooked me into 1.17 and really convinced me that, yeah, they are significantly committed to changing the way this underground works, because let's go into Spectator real quick, and let's show you how this Grimstone works in the new terrain. So, as you might know, the underground now goes down to -64, and between 0 and 64, you've probably already worked out, you can find these deep dark caves. Later on in time, these will be super scary, because, I mean, they'll have things like the warden spawning in them. No one wants the warden. And so everyone is familiar with the idea of the deep dark. When you go down low enough, you'll find these terrifying caves that will contain the warden, something which is meant to be so terrifying, you're not meant to fight it. It's a natural disaster you're trying to avoid. However, something you might not be familiar with is the overall makeup of the caves is changing significantly. So I mentioned the ore rates are significantly increasing lower down, and we know this because they're splitting the underground into two kind of major segments. There's going to be the 0 to -64 segment. We all know and love this. When you're at about Y0 above, you're going to find almost entirely stone. It's nice, it's wonderful. That is the big change. That is the underground you're used to. If you never go below this layer, you might not even notice that anything's changed. However, if you go below Y0, like we're doing right now, then what you'll start to spot is that this Grimstone starts to appear everywhere. Wow, there's Grimstone here, there's Grimstone there, and the lower down you go, the more Grimstone slowly replaces stone until eventually it's entirely replaced it, and you've got a biome that is made entirely of Grimstone. This makes mining very slightly harder, as we all have seen from the pickaxe example, especially if you're mining with a weaker pickaxe. It's going to be harder here, but in exchange you get a slightly better block than cobblestone, in my opinion, that will make those 13 block variants that we'll come back to later, sure. And yeah, so basically caves look very different here, but the reward for coming down here is the higher spawn rate of ores. So in this current snapshot, the Henrik Nieberg was luckily actually put out a little bit of a an image showing exactly what the ore spawn rates are, and basically according to this image, as you can see, the intended spawn rate for diamonds is going to be significantly higher if you go down this low. If you are very, very close to 0, the lower down you go, the more diamonds you find. Finding diamonds will be significantly easier than in the current update, with the caveat that you have to mine through a harder to mine block. I mean, obviously, Grimstone is harder to mine than stone, and as well as having to go through a harder to mine block, you're also going to have to deal with the potential of the deep dark and the warden. So there is a risk-reward thing to diamond mining. If you stay up nice and high, you'll find diamonds occasionally with very little risk, and it won't take too long to mine, but the lower down you go, the more risky things can get for you. So yeah, risk-reward is really great. The same is true for gold, the same is true for a lot of other blocks. They've changed the profiles, as you can see from all of those. It's really interesting to look at, in my opinion, the fact that they're going to make iron spawn really, in really high quantities in the mountains, meaning mining iron will be best done up high or down low, and obviously up high will be easier. So there will be a use for iron in the mountains with the current ore profile. Again, they might change that. Redstone is very common when you go down below ground. Basically, they've made ores more common in the below ground, in the new Grimstone era of the below bedrock era, let's call it, because yeah, the lower down you go, the harder things get, but the more ores you get. And I think that's a really, really great thing to do, in my opinion. I think this is much more exciting than the current ore profile for Minecraft, and that's one thing I wanted to talk about. But the other thing is the fact that they're slowly starting to change more structures. So here is an abandoned mineshaft. As you can see, the abandoned mineshaft is entirely surrounded by the Grimstone because it spawns this low down. So you will now find, obviously, the abandoned mineshaft is the same, but it will generate sometimes through stone, sometimes through Grimstone, and sometimes if it generates just on the cusp, some parts of the mineshaft will be through stone and some through Grimstone. But the other exciting change they've made is, rather than making them support on pillars like they did last week, now abandoned mineshafts support through chains to the ceiling. I think this makes a lot of sense. In fact, I've even done it on my scorched map in my rendition of abandoned mineshaft that isn't an abandoned mineshaft. But as you can see, this abandoned mineshaft is chained to the ceiling, or chained to the ceiling above it, and I think that is a much more realistic, much more thematic thing. Also, it's a natural source of change you can now get in the overworld, which I think is great. It's a double win for Minecraft, in my opinion. They made mineshafts much cooler, and also made, in a way, more interesting and thematic. And because these will go through the deep dark, through the new caves that spawn below Y0, now you have an opportunity to do this. I don't know what we should call this, really, like the new depth of Minecraft. But yeah, the Grimstone, part of Minecraft. I guess we could call it the Grimstone depths. Once you descend below Y0, you hit these Grimstone depths where everything's made from Grimstone, where ores start to spawn more frequently, and where challenges start to get more frequent. And I think that's really great. Obviously, this is something they need to expand on. We haven't seen the Warden. We haven't seen if, to late game players, the Warden really is just a thing you can avoid. It's something that King B Dogs has been discussing a lot on Twitter, and indeed, I would love to discuss a lot of detail in some future. But for now, let's just say they are working on the Warden, they are working on all this stuff, and it's really exciting. But now we need to move on to the last bits of this, because right now we only have a vague look at the future. We know that down here below the ground, you can only find Grimstone and Andesite. Granite and Diorite do not spawn this low down, so as a result, basically Andesite is going to become more common than the other two. That's a weird change. We don't know if that'll stick. We don't know if, we don't know how bad the one would be. There's a lot of speculation about the future that they've basically given us, but we can only say, yeah, they're going to be changing the underground even more after this in the future. There are more cave types to come, etc, etc, etc. So let's go back to the surface and let's talk about these brand new block variants, because this is something I think a lot of people are excited about. I love, and also the bee is back. Hello, I'm IBX Toy Cat, and today I'm going to talk to you about slabs, because if you find this brand new Grimstone block, it's slightly harder to mine, but the reward is you get 13 variants from it, and let's talk about those very briefly. So Grimstone is the block that you're most used to finding. Wow, it spawns everywhere below Y0. You're going to get a lot of this stuff, and then if you want to turn that into slabs and stairs, I shouldn't have to explain it, but you know, I will anyway. You turn it into slabs by doing this, and you could turn it into stairs by doing this, but don't do that. You know what? The stonecutter exists in Minecraft. The way you make slabs and stairs is by doing this, and you get 1-to-1 rather than 6-to-4. It's a better ratio. Speaking of better ratio, you can also make walls this way if you really want to, because as always, you can make 6 of anything into a wall by doing that. Wow, there's a fun fact for you. But also, you can use the stonecutter to make, wow, look at that, it's chiseled Grimstone. So yeah, chiseled Grimstone looks like this. And so, yeah, I think personally of all the 4 new types of blocks, there's Grimstone, polished, brick, and the brand new chiseled Grimstone. I think this kind of tile-looking Grimstone, wait, no, this is an addition to that one. I'm dumb. You know what? We'll leave that in there. You know what? Today, Toy Cat learns. I'm saying 13 new types of blocks, but I'm entirely leaving out the chiseled Grimstone. Wow, what an embarrassment. So yeah, there is also polished Grimstone. The way you get that is you take 4 Grimstone and you get 4 of them. Basically, it's a very slightly nice looking block. I like it. You can make it into stairs, you can make it into slabs. I think if you're going to use Grimstone for like normal looking builds, I'd say this is probably it. However, this is probably got to use for pathways because for whatever inexplicable reason, people use gravel for that right now. Gravel's ugly. It's not good for pathways. It doesn't work. You're wrong. And you're not as good. Polished Grimstone. Speaking of things that are good, I think these absolutely delightful the Grimstone bricks are really nice. I think the Grimstone tiles are also really nice. And then there's the polished Grimstone, which has clearly like some reference to the Warden on it. I feel like chiseling blocks and having references to things is fun. Or it has a disappointed face. You can see that how you want. But then all of these blocks come as the walls, like I mentioned. They come as slabs and stairs. And we have a lot of new blocks in this update alone. Before we even start to consider the Deep Dark is adding new stone types. Before we consider that obviously I haven't covered it on this channel yet, but you've probably seen it elsewhere. There's a lot of new lush cave blocks coming. And that's before we consider any other cave types. 1.17 is going to be a big block update. And I like that. I like that as part of every update, we get a new kind of like palette to play around with. It means that even if you don't care about the underground, even if you just play around in creative, you've still got something in this update for you. And I think that's nice. I think that's something that every update should have. The questions now, because obviously those are the new features, that's wonderful. The questions now are the much bigger things about like, okay, how many new blocks? How challenging will the Deep Dark really be? Will there be other types of challenging caves, or is the Deep Dark just the big one? These sorts of questions we don't know the answers to until they come out, but that's why I make these snapshot or beta videos, to give you an idea of where the update is right now, because I'm not the only one who's excited for this update and likes to prepare and know what's coming ahead of time, so I hope you did all enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to like the video. Also, I am streaming sometime after this goes out, so if you want to see me destroy an end city, I'm going to be doing that. Also, tomorrow, Thursday, I stream every Thursday if you don't know, as well as random other days of the week. Really, I've become a little bit of a streamer recently, if you haven't spotted. But if you want to see a stream, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a peaceful run of Minecraft again, but it's going to be maybe a bit more speedrun oriented. I don't want to talk specifics, because whenever I talk specifics and announce ahead of time, someone's like, aha, I can do it before Toy Cat and cut off his thing. And it's like, but that just makes it less fun, doesn't it? But anyway, yeah, so with that said, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, then like it. And if you didn't, then I'm sorry. Have a better day tomorrow, unless you die in a house fire. Because if you're not subscribed, that's statistically more likely. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.